Chase me, Susie! Chase me!
Good.
ليس لها مجال في الخارج. مجالها والشبكة.
And it exists on the network. It exists on the networks. And I think the point here we're going to get to is the issue, this topic of real and not real, tangible, not tangible. We will come to it.
الإلكترونية. وقبل أن أتكلم عن حكمها.
It has no reality outside the network. So we come into it. So we come into the age-old discussion about tangible, not tangible. So these cryptocurrencies have no reality, no essence in outside the network.
ينبغي أن نعلم أن النقد المعتبر شرعا على نوعين، وهذا مهم جدا.
So before we discuss about the ruling of it,
أني رأيت أن كثيرا من طلاب العلم الذين تكلموا في العمولات.
It's important to know that the accepted types of currencies are two types. That's what Sheikh is saying here. The two accepted types of currencies are two types. I'm assuming here, from the way in which he said that, is that there are only two types of currencies that are accepted. Not that there are currently two types. That's not. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think he's saying that there are only two types that are accepted as currencies in Islam.
الرقمية.
And this is very important. So if I said to you, the only way you can make me happy is to buy me a burger or buy me some chips. If you understood that sentence, if you bought me a doner kebab, then you know it's not gonna make me happy, because I just said the only way you can do that is chips, burger. The Sheikh is saying the only two ways that currency is allowed is these two types.
لا يعرفون حقيقة النقد شرعا ويخلطون الأمور ببعضها. النقد المعتبر شرعا.
So this is important. Sheikh said here is very important. He says that many of the students of knowledge, those who speak about cryptocurrencies and say it's halal or whatnot and discuss it, they don't know the reality of money in the Sharia. So basically what he's saying is that they may say it's halal or not, because they haven't understood that in the Sharia there are two types. Once you understand there's only two types, then you can see why crypto is not one of those two types, and therefore it's not from the Sharia. That's where
على نوعين. النوع
and they mix up things. One this mix up here. So that's what the Sheikh is saying here.
الأول أن تكون له قيمة في ذاته.
The currencies that are accepted in the Sharia, in Islamic law, are two types. And generally speaking, as a principle, Islamic principle, again, nothing wrong with the Sheikh's knowledge. As an Islamic principle, that's a sound principle. For example, if I said to you, there's only two types of water. Yeah? And one of those types you can do wudu with, and the other one you can't do wudu with. As a principle, that'd be something okay to accept. There's only two types of water. Therefore, you have to ask yourself: is this water from that type or that type? You can build from that principle. The question is, however, are there only two types of water? And like we have here, he said there are only two types of currencies. The question is that the case? Are there only two types of currencies?
ويتعارف الناس على المقايضة به. أن تكون.
And the first type of currency is that which has value in and of itself. Now, I've always said to people in the past that one of the difficulties and challenges we're going to have as a ummah, as Muslims, dealing with cryptocurrency or dealing with Bitcoin, is dealing with the innovative nature of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is essentially a first of its kind. We've never really had a means to have ownership or possession of that which was not tangible beforehand. So essentially, anything which was knowledge-based, information-based, there was no real way of capturing it and owning it without external laws. I can say, for example, copyright. The only way to enforce copyright is with someone else coming to you with a knife or a sword or jail, or threat of jail or fine to enforce ownership. But realistically, anyone can just copy your idea, copy your design, copy your picture, you can copy anything because knowledge can be copied infinitely. Bitcoin is the only time, or the first time, we actually have something which we can only have one of a kind. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, and if you have it, it means I don't have it. So discussions about this needs to be adjusted in a way, because we need to factor in that in. I mean, if you could if I said to you, information can be copied in an infinite amount of time, there's nothing to stop me from having it, and you have nothing to make me have it and you not have it. Therefore, information behaves a certain way, and we get that. We have the tangible world whereby possession means something, and ownership means something, and you have the information world where you can't actually grab any of it. But if we were able to have information that we can have possession and ownership and stop someone from using it and accessing it, and it now behaves like a real thing, what does that mean? So this is why we're going to have a problem moving forward about Bitcoin until we address this issue here. Are we still going to stick to the paradigm that only things that have physical form are real, quote unquote, and that which is not physical is not real, quote unquote? Because intellectual property, which I'm sure most ulama accept as a thing that could be owned, is not real, quote unquote. It's an idea. Copyright, patents, these things. I mean, I personally don't agree with copyrights and patents, but I'm saying there are many ulama who accept copyrights and patents, and they are effectively not real. So yeah. Anyway, so he's saying here that the first type of money has to be that which has money in of itself. So it has value. So it has value in and of its physical self. It has value in and of its physical self. Some of you may have come across my videos in the past. You may know already that this topic of intrinsic value is definitely a stumbling point for many people. This idea of intrinsic value. And let me not talk too much. Let me let the Sheikh talk.
له قيمة في ذاته ويتعارف الناس على المقايضة به.
So two things. It has value in of itself, and the people know effectively the value of its exchange, or how much how much things are when you exchange it. So there's knowledge of the people about its value, and the value actually being in of itself. What I would suggest and say is that value is only in our heads. I know it's a bit of a drastic move for some people, like, oh, how can you say there's no such thing as intrinsic value? But I have had this debate for such a long time, for years now. But just bear with me. A piece of gold on the floor, a bar of gold. Every one of mankind has now died. There's no human being left on planet Earth. What's the value of that gold? The question doesn't make sense, because value is something we perceive something to be. So value is intrinsic to us, not to the thing. And this is one of the things this is the shift that we need to start making and understanding, that value only exists in us. Now, what there are, though, are properties that are intrinsic. Listen carefully. There are properties intrinsic to things, and we may value those properties. So gold has properties, its weight, its color, its scarcity. These are properties that you could say part of gold. It's atomic value, it's the resistance of gold, electronic resistance. These are properties of gold, and they are intrinsic to gold, but we may value those properties differently. Maybe you value property of gold because it's shiny and yellow more than someone who doesn't care. I mean, the point is there are values. The value of it is in our heads, but the properties of it are in the thing. So if I was to reword what Sheikh is saying here, so that maybe you could say that these things, money must have a physical form, it must have properties, in the real world, and we must know the value of these properties. Maybe that's one way of adjusting that statement. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, you can decide. The point here, I'm not dictating to you what you should believe. I'm just giving you my commentary.
تسمى هذه عند الفقهاء بالنقود السلع.
And it must have a value in and of itself. So again, I disagree in that. I think that nothing has a value in and of itself. things have properties in of itself that we may value it. But as for having a value in of itself, value is something we perceive. It's our opinions.
يعني هي نفسها سلعة.
And people come to know this value or this property or this amount based on our transactions. So again, there's an intrinsic. The Sheikh sees it but hasn't seen it yet. So he sees that there is a human element there. There is an element where humans are involved in assessing and evaluating this value. And there are properties that are in the thing that we value it, but you can't make that value be the property. It's us, basically. And that's why you find that if you have an abundance of this thing, this property, then the value of it goes down. It's not because the property changed, it's because of our perception and our view of the ease of achieving that property has changed.
كالذهب. الذهب يا إخوة.
And the scholars of the past and present have called this type of money which is sil'a, which is like a product that you sell, like a product. Now, again, historically speaking, let's go prior to Bitcoin. This makes perfect sense. We would say as Muslims, money has to be something which is tangible, has value in itself, because in the physicality of the thing, there's scarcity. Yeah, and I guess the value of that thing will be determined by its scarcity, by us and whatnot. But it has to be something which is there, because if it's knowledge, then by its very nature, there is no such thing as scarcity. So therefore, you can't really attribute even value to that thing or even possession to that thing, because it's just knowledge. You get what I'm saying? So that's one reason why you might say that money must be tangible, because if I have it, and you don't have it. And if I give it to you, now you have it, I don't have it. So in that physicality, there are properties which makes it money.
له قيمة في نفسه.
So it in of itself it's a product.
والفضة والنحاس.
Like gold.
وغير ذلك مما له.
So gold, it has value in itself. And like I said to you, gold has properties in itself that we value.
له قيمة في ذاته.
Like silver.
ويدخل في هذا النقود الورقية عندما كانت.
And other things that has value in of itself. That's what Sheikh is saying. But like I said, I'm not, there's nothing wrong with the Sheikh knowledge of the Sharia, but I'm saying that the perception of value, the concept of value, which is not a Shari'i thing, it's just a a human thing or intellectual thing, I don't agree with it. You can decide yourself if you agree with it, but I feel that copper, what makes copper different from silver, different from gold, are properties within the thing that I value. Maybe it could be the case that you value silver right now more than anything else, because silver has properties to do with shifa, to do with medicine, to do with treatments. Anyway, I'm going on.
ترجع وتغطى بالذهب أو الفضة. قديما كان الدينار يغطى بالذهب أو الفضة. الريال السعودي كان يغطى.
And this, the extension of this type of currency, which is نقود سلعية, or this physical product-based currency, is paper money. If the paper money is backed by gold and silver, essentially it's a representation. It's a representation of the thing. So the thing is over there. This paper just represents that thing.
بالفضة. فهذه العملة الورقية نائبة عن شيء له قيمة وهو.
So in the past, the dinar used to be covered by gold and silver, so he says. But I mean, dinar specifically is gold, dirham is silver, but he's going to continue by saying, talking about Saudi riyal.
ذهب أو الفضة. فهذه.
So the Saudi riyal used to be covered or backed by silver.
نقود سلعية. والنوع الثاني النقود التي لا قيمة.
So this paper money was actually just, its value kind of extends to that because it is that.
لها في ذاتها.
Hey, gold or silver.
وإنما تستمد قيمتها.
This money is basically product.
من قوة.
So before we move on to that, just a brief history on Saudi riyal. So yeah, Saudi riyal went through, I'm going to be quick. So Saudi riyal was literally the Saudis used to have silver coins. When people used to come for Hajj, what the government did is that they issued a Hajj currency, which is like, they had all different languages and whatnot. So when you came to your country to exchange your currency for this Hajj currency, you would spend it while you're in Hajj, and when you leave, you give back that currency to the airport or whatever, and you get back your currency. But those Saudis or locals who received that Hajj currency, they can now take that to the bank and get their Saudi coins, silver coins. That's how it began. And then after that, the government made it generic, so there was now paper money to back this silver coin, and it had written on it, redeemable for silver. So you could go to the bank and exchange it, whatnot. And the ulama at the time spoke about this. I think it was in the 70s, 60s, and ulama spoke about this. What does this paper mean? Is it halal? Is it not, or not? And they decided that it's the same as what it is. But then the shift came, where they removed that redeemable part and the money became its own thing. And the ulama had a big discussion with the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia and other people that had translation and whatnot, and they issued a fatwa saying it's permissible and whatnot. But that's how the change happened in Saudi. It happened in the 70s actually. This happened very recently. Mohammed Amin Shanqiti and other ulama disagreed. They said no, we don't accept this. And then some of them changed their minds, some of them died like that, and I think majority accepted it anyway. But essentially, that's what happened in the Saudi riyal. I don't know about all the other Muslim countries. I'm sure the story is very similar. But Saudi, the way the tariqah, the method whereby the money is talking about, the sil'ah, the nuqud, the sil'iyya, or the product-based currency was replaced. It was replaced through Hajj. It started with the Hajj money, which became generic current country money, and then after that it was removed. What is interesting though, if you think about it, and I love someone to answer this, because I've asked some, but they gave me no reply. So what does that mean then? Imagine we had 10 bars of silver, and we had 10 pieces of paper. Those bars of silver were in a bank. The people had the paper, and they were promised that this paper would redeem that. And then all of a sudden, the redeemability was cancelled, and now they were told to transact with this piece of paper. So effectively, the currency of the country doubled. I mean, if the currency, that this new money, is actually money and has the same value that it had before, and also you got the silver, that means, imagine it this way, you got paper and you got silver, that's just one. And when you depeg it, you now have two. So, what does that mean? I mean, who owns the original silver? Because initially, whoever owned the money owned the silver. And when you say, no, you can't get the silver anymore, use the money, and this is now money, and you can still spend it. So technically, you can still spend it, you can still use it, and nothing's technically lost. But isn't that silver still yours? And if it's not still yours, who then owns it? And what right did that person have to spend that silver? This is the effect. That's why some people say that the depegging of a currency is effectively a default on a debt. They owe you something and they've defaulted. But it's worse than defaulted, because a normal default means you've lost out. But in this reality, you haven't lost out, because you can still spend your money as you would do normally. It's just that now the owners, or the ones who are looking after that gold, have now increased their money. They now have money in their bags that they can spend, and you have money you can spend. So it's a weird one. I don't want to call it what it is, because I don't need to. You can see what it is for yourself. But if I said to you, I promise to pay you back, and now a week later I said, no, bro, I'm not going to pay you back anything. Just use the money, use that piece of paper I have. That's good enough. Call it what you like, but that's essentially what happened across the world, not Saudi Arabia only. In America and UK, every country that depegged their currency from gold and silver, that's effectively what they did.
اقتصاد الدولة وضمان الدولة لها.
So now the Sheikh saying there's other types of money. Second type, so the first type was this one that has value in and of itself. Like I said, to me it makes more sense to say it has properties in and of itself that we value. And then we have that which has no value in and of itself.